Hello, this is Assistant Professor Vishnu Shankar from Department of Mechanical Engineering, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology, Kakinada. Welcome to the lecture series on non-destructive testing. This course is offered to S5 Mechanical Engineering students of APJ Abdul Kalam Kerala Technological University. Before going to the first module, I'll brief what are the contents which will be taught in this subject. In the first module, we'll be teaching about the introduction to NDT, non-destructive testing, and the first non-destructive testing, which is the visual inspection, its fundamentals, working principle, and various other tools which is used for visual inspection. In the second module, the second non-destructive testing, which is the liquid penetrant testing inspection or LPI, is taught. The working principle of LPI and the different types of penetrants are also taught in the second module. Now, coming to the third module, we'll be teaching the third testing method of non-destructive testing, which is the magnetic particle inspection or MPI. The working principle of MPI, the various methods of magnetization will also be taught in the third module. Now, coming to the fourth module, we will be teaching the fourth method of non-destructive testing inspection, which is the ultrasonic testing or UT. In this module, the principle of ultrasonic testing and the different types of waves will be taught. And the fifth module deals with the fifth non-destructive testing inspection, which is called the radiography testing or RT. Here we will be teaching the principle of radiographic testing or RT and the different electromagnetic radiation sources which are used for this type of testing. Then the X-rays will be explained and its properties will also be detailed in this module. And the last module deals with the last method of non-destructive testing, which is the eddy current testing. In this module, we will be teaching about the principle of eddy current testing or ECT, its various applications such as conductivity measurement, hardness measurement, and how this method is used for detecting defects. Now, on briefing on this subject consists of 6 modules which I have already explained. And now we will be moving on to the first module, which is the introduction to NDT, and the last part of this module also covers the first non-destructive testing inspection method, which is the visual inspection. Before starting the first module, I would like to ask a question to you all. What is non-destructive testing or NDT? It refers to a method of detecting internal flaws in engineering materials without breaking them. In this module, we will be dealing with non-destructive testing NDT, non-destructive evaluation NDE, and non-destructive inspection NDI. It helps to detect and assess the inhomogeneities and harmful defects without damaging the usefulness of materials. A highly valuable technique that can save both money and time. Importance of NDT. These are the main importance of NDT. The first one, reliability. What is reliability? It is the trouble-free service given by products. Reliability of a machine or assembly depends on individual reliability factors of components. Reliability comes through improving the quality level of the components. The second importance of NDT is its quality. It is the design, material properties and fabrication techniques which defines the quality of NDT. Quality is related to presence of defects and imperfections in finished products which lower the performance level. NDT plays a critical role in assuring that structural components and systems perform their function in a reliable and cost-effective fashion. It helps to locate and characterize material conditions and flows that might otherwise cause serious accidents, such as planes to crash, reactors to fail, trains to derail, pipelines to burst, etc. As it allows inspection without interfering with a product's final use, NDT provides an excellent balance between quality control and cost effectiveness. Now, what is NDT non-destructive testing or NDE non-destructive evaluation? Technically, NDE is used to describe measurements that are more quantitative in nature. NDE method would not only locate a defect, but it would also be used to measure something about that defect, such as its size, shape and orientation. NDE determine material properties such as fracture toughness, ductility, conductivity and other physical characteristics. What are the uses of NDT or NDE? NDT or NDE is mainly used for flow detection and evaluation, for the detection of leaks, location determination, dimensional measurements, structure and microstructure characterization, estimation of mechanical and physical properties, stress strain and dynamic response measurements, and material sorting and chemical composition determination. When are NDT methods used? There are NDE applications at most any stage in the production or life cycle of a component. It is used to assist in product development, to screen or sort incoming materials, to monitor, improve or control manufacturing process, to verify proper processing such as heat treating, to verify proper assembly, and to inspect for in-service damage. Similarly, when are destructive methods of testing used? Properties like ductility, elasticity, hardness, toughness, etc. are evaluated using destructive methods of testing. First one, tensile test. It is generally performed on universal testing machine or UTM to find the stress strain curves. Second one, compression test. In compression test, a uniaxial compression load is used for conducting the test. Third one, shear and bending test. It is used to find the bending and shear stress, and 3-point system and 4-point system is used in this. Coming to the fourth test, torsion test. We use torsion test to find the shear stress, shear strain and angle of twist. The last test, which is the impact test, is used to assess shock absorbing capability of a material. Now coming to an important question in this module. Compare destructive and non-destructive testing methods. Now I will be explaining the advantages of destructive testing and the corresponding limitations of non-destructive testing. Coming to the first advantage of destructive testing. The measurements are direct and reliable in the case of destructive testing, whereas measurements are indirect, hence reliability is to be verified for non-destructive testing. Coming to the second advantage of destructive testing. Most of the measurements are quantitative in nature, whereas in non-destructive testing, usually qualitative measurements are conducted. Now coming to the third advantage of destructive testing. The correlation between test measurements and material properties is direct in the case of destructive testing, whereas in the case of non-destructive testing, skilled judgment and experience are required to interpret indications. Now, I will be explaining the limitations of destructive testing and the corresponding advantages of non-destructive testing. Coming to the first limitation of destructive testing. Tests are not done directly on the objects in the case of destructive testing, whereas in non-destructive testing, it is direct testing. Coming to the second limitation of destructive testing, a single test measure only one or a few properties can be measured in the case of destructive testing, whereas many NDT methods can be applied on the same part in the case of non-destructive testing. Coming to the third limitation of destructive testing, in-service testing is not possible in the case of destructive testing, whereas in-service testing is possible in the case of non-destructive testing. Coming to the fourth limitation of destructive testing, preparation of specimen is costly in the case of destructive testing, whereas very little preparation is needed in the case of non-destructive testing. Coming to the last limitation of destructive testing, the time requirements are generally high in the case of destructive testing, whereas most of the tests are rapid in the case of non-destructive testing. Now, we will move on to the first method of non-destructive testing, which is called the visual inspection. It is the most widely used NDT method. It is simple, easy to apply, quickly carried out and cheap in cost. Visual inspection before applying other NDT techniques is usually done in non-destructive testing. Simple visual tests reveal gross surface defects leading to the rejection of component, thus saving time and money. Advent of microscopes and computers helps for a reliable and cheap visual inspection. Importance of NDT. These are the main importance of NDT. The first one, reliability. What is reliability? It is the trouble-free service given by products. Reliability of a machine or assembly depends on individual reliability factors of components. Reliability comes through improving the quality level of the components. The second importance of NDT is its quality. It is the design, material. As you can see, these are the different applications of visual inspection. From the figure, it is clear that visual inspection is used to detect the flaws or defects inside the chamber of an aeroplane, and it is also used to detect defects inside pipelines using robots or a camera fitted onto the end of a rod, which are inaccessible to humans. Now, moving on to the most valuable NDT tool which is used for visual inspection. It is our eye. It is valuable because the eye has excellent visual perception. The sensitivity varies for light with different wavelengths. Under ordinary conditions, eye is most sensitive to yellow-green light. For visual inspection, adequate lighting in the range of 800 to 1000 lux is of importance, and inspection cannot be done for not more than 2 hours on a continuous basis. What are the optical aids which are used for visual inspection? Before going to that, I will teach you what are the functions of optical aids. It is used to magnify defects that can't be detected by unaided eye, permits visual checks of areas which are not accessible to the unaided eye. Mirrors, magnifiers, boroscopes, fibroscopes, etc. are used as the different visual optical aids in non-destructive testing. What are the defects that can be detected by unaided visual inspection? the general condition of the component, presence or absence of oxide film or corrosive products, presence or absence of cracks, orientation and position of cracks, surface porosity, unfilled craters, contour of the weld beads, etc. And the last one, potential sources of mechanical weakness such as sharp notches and misalignment. Now, moving on to the first optical aid which is used in visual inspection, microscope. It is a combination of lenses which is used to magnify the image of a small object. Object is placed close to the lens to obtain higher magnification. This is a microscope which is used as an optical aid in visual inspection. The second optical aid which is used in visual inspection is the Boroscope or Borescope. It is an instrument designed to enable an observer to inspect the inside of a narrow tube, bore or chamber. It consists of precision built-in illumination system with prisms and plane lenses through which light is passed to the observer. As you can see in the figure, the Boroscope or Borescope is used to detect the inside of narrow tubes as well as the inner surface of the wing of an aeroplane. In the case of a Boroscope or Borescope, as the length is increased, the image becomes less bright. It is available in 2.5 to 19 mm in diameter and a few meters in length. Diameter depends on the diameter of hole or bore to be inspected. The length is governed by distance between available axes and distance to inspection area. Now, moving on to the third optical aid which is used in visual inspection, endoscope. Endoscope is much like a borescope except that it has a superior optical system and high intensity light source. Various viewing angles can be used in endoscope. Objects are constantly in focus from about 4 mm to infinity. When tip is about 4 mm from object, a magnification factor of 10x is achieved. No focusing feature makes it easier to use. Available in diameters down to 1.7 mm and length 100 to 1500 mm. Now, moving on to the most valuable NDT tool which is used for visual inspection. It is our eye. It is valuable because the eye has excellent visual perception. The sensitivity varies for light with different wavelengths. Under ordinary conditions, eye is most sensitive to yellow-green light. For visual inspection, adequate lighting in the range of 800 to 1000 lux is of importance. Now, what is NDT non-destructive testing or NDE non-destructive evaluation? Technically, NDE is used to describe measurements that are more quantitative in nature. NDE method would not only locate a defect, but it would also be used to measure something about that defect such as its size, shape and orientation. NDE determine material properties such as fracture toughness, ductility, conductivity and other physical characteristics. Before starting the first module, I would like to ask a question to you all. What is non-destructive testing or NDT? It refers to a method of detecting internal flaws in engineering materials without breaking them. In this module, we will be dealing with non-destructive testing NDT, non-destructive evaluation NDE and non-destructive inspection. Now, moving on to the last optical aid which is used for visual inspection in non-destructive testing. It is the telescope. It is used to obtain magnified images of objects at considerable distance from the eye. Visual examination of surface which is otherwise inaccessible is possible with the help of a telescope. It consists of essentially two lenses, objective and eyepiece. Now, moving on to the last portion in first module of the subject ME367 non-destructive testing. The applications of non-destructive testing. Inspection of plant systems component for any leakage, abnormal operation, etc. is possible with the help of non-destructive testing. Misalignment of parts in equipments can also be easily identified. Corrosion, erosion, crack, fracture, etc. can easily be identified with the help of visual inspection. Defects in weldments such as surface cracks, lack of penetration, tear cracks, excess reinforcement, porosity, etc. are easily identified. Minute discontinuities with the help of optical aids in pumps, compressors, turbo generators, parts, etc. are easily identified. Before ending today's session on first module of the subject ME367 non-destructive testing, I would like to brief what I have taught in today's class. Today, in the first module, I have taught what is non-destructive testing, what is the importance of non-destructive testing, and what is the main difference between non-destructive testing and destructive testing. And in the later section of this first module, I also explained the first non-destructive testing, which is the visual inspection, and what are the optical aids which are used in visual inspection and the application of non-destructive testing. Thank you all for listening to today's lecture.